have a break. Yeah, we can take a break now for a couple of minutes, given that we've opened the meeting. Thank you. the opening prayer. Almighty God, we seek your blessing and guidance in our deliberations on behalf of the people of Colac Otway Shire. Enable its council decisions to be those that contribute to the true welfare and betterment of our community. Amen. I would like to start this evening by acknowledging the traditional custodians and lawmakers of this land, the elders past, present, and welcome any descendants here today. Please be advised that this meeting is recorded and live streamed with the exception of confidential matters. This includes the public participation sections of the meeting. The live stream recordings of this afternoon's meeting will be available on the website as soon as practicable. By participating in open meetings, individuals consent to the use and disclosure of information they share at the meeting, including any personal and or sensitive information. There are no apologies. I note that we have 7 councillors. Moving on to question time. Colac Otway Shire Council encourages community input, and integral to this is the opportunity provided to ask questions at council meeting. A maximum of 30 minutes is allowed for questions at council meetings. Community members wishing to ask questions of council by video conference were requested to register their intention before 5 p.m. on Monday, 20th of November. No requests were received. I have received questions in writing from Bridget Finlayson, Mr James Judd and David Coventry. These questions will be read out and a response will be provided by the relevant member of the executive management team. In accordance with sub-rule 56.6.3 of Council's governance rules, an individual written response will be provided to questions that have not been read out today. All written responses will be available in the minutes on the Colac Otway Shire website, once confirmed at the following council meeting. Before we move on, can I have a show of hands in the gallery who might want to ask a question? Thank you. Questions in writing. Miss Bridget Finlayson has asked 25 questions relating to item 7.1, Local Sports Infrastructure Fund, Lake Oval Lighting Upgrade Proposal, which is a matter that will be considered by Council at the meeting today. Ms Finlayson submitted these questions before the agenda was published, and so we hope that some of her questions may be addressed by the report. A number of the questions preempt a decision of Council at this meeting, so it's not possible to answer all these questions in advance of our deliberations or decision today. I will read through Ms Finlayson's 25 questions, and then the CEO will provide a series of responses that have been prepared to address the questions to the best of our ability at this time. So I'll go through from number 1. Who is driving this proposal? Is it Lake Oval Users Council or other? Question number 2, what are the precise plans for the location of the new lights? How can stakeholders properly assess the merits of the project without accurate information and plans? What is the name of the firm who will undertake these lighting works? What tender process has been undertaken to undertake this project? What are the costs of the project? What are the ongoing costs of this project? Who is responsible for insurances such as public liability insurance for this project and into the future? Question 8, what are the implications of the new lighting towers at Lake Oval on emergency services, particularly the air ambulance helicopters? Question 9, have aircraft regulatory bodies been informed of the proposed lighting changes at Lake Oval? Question 10, given the Lake Oval proximity to Lake Colac and the Botanical Gardens, both of which can affect air turbulence, what additional risks to helicopters have been assessed and what are those risks? Has a professional and qualified aeronautical risk assessor been engaged by Council to qualify risk to aircraft crew, passengers, local residents and infrastructure? What are the environmental impacts of the proposed new lighting on the local fauna, particularly the flying foxes, birds and insects? We're up to 13. How have local environmental groups been informed of the proposed lighting change at the Lake Oval? What will the actual impact of the lights be on the adjacent properties, user groups and wider community? As the Colac Cricket Oval is elevated from the western side, Grand Street residents, what will the exact impact of the lights be? What will the precise light spill of each light to the local residents? What are the implications of these lights on increased use of Lake Oval? We're up to 18 now. How will increased use of Lake Oval affect car parking, noise, rubbish, toilets, etc.? Who will be responsible for the costs incurred by increased use of Lake Oval? What are the existing planning restrictions, such as heritage overlays, that affect the proposed lighting project? What are the hydrology implications of changing any ground height for the installation of proposed lighting pylons or changes to car parking areas? We're up to 22. Has anyone ever actually complained about the current lighting at Lake Oval? In the Colac City Reserves planning project, the installation of new lights at Lake Oval is only rated as a medium priority. There are 4 other items ahead of it on the priority list. Why has this order and priority changed? Who is responsible for changing Council's own list of priorities at Lake Oval? And lastly, 25, who is responsible for supervising the conduct of the proposed installation of the new lights at Lake Oval? Response from CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. So thanks to Ms Finlayson for submitting the questions, and I will try and provide a response that does address all of those questions as the Mayor explained, but I just recognise that this is a great opportunity for us to provide some more information and answer some questions that I'm sure others will also have. So it will take a little while, so bear with me, but I will move through, and we have checked and all 25 have been considered in this, but I've tried to group the response so that like questions are together. So they might be in a slightly different order to how it was asked. Okay, so of the 25 questions, five questions, numbers 1, 2, 22, 23 and 24, they relate to seeking to understand the background to the project, how things have been prioritised, and then how has that flowed through to consideration for a funding application so that the community can understand the merits of the project. So all of those questions relate to, as I said, the background to the project, prioritisation, etc. Council adopted a master plan for the Lake Oval in May 2023, along with master plans for 3 other Colac reserves. The work was informed by an understanding of current and emerging sports demands, consultation with sports clubs and the broader community, and assessment of how various reserves might collectively support the existing and emerging needs of the Colac and district community. Whilst cricket is a summer sport, the football umpires are very dependent on adequate lighting, and they have complained to Council about the quality of the lighting at the Oval over a period. There are limited options to move the umpires to alternative sites without potentially causing other problems elsewhere, and so this is where the balancing has needed to come in. Council's heard various views about the lighting when the master plans were being developed and had the challenge of trying to balance the competing issues, and in the end Council adopted the master plan for Lake Oval, including the proposal to upgrade the lighting, which would support safe training for football umpires. There is an overall prioritisation of projects in the master plans. Some are dependent on other things happen in a particular order, but some may be brought forward when funding opportunities arise. This is basically what's happened in this case. However, it doesn't mean that the master plan priorities have been ignored nor formally changed. It's just that when an opportunity arises, we need to recognise that. There is a funding stream specifically for lighting open currently under the Local Sports Infrastructure Fund, and it is Office's responsibility to bring these opportunities to the attention of councils, which we've done. Councils can then choose whether it is the right time to take up the opportunity or to wait and reconsider it at another time. 4 questions, numbers 3, 4, 7 and 25, relate more directly to the tender and contract matters. And as stated already, we haven't had any direction from Council yet to formally seek a grant for the Lake Oval lighting project or to commence that project, and therefore we haven't moved to preparing for tenders and no contractor is currently engaged. If a contract is awarded in the future, it will be supervised by one of Council's project managers, and the contractor will be directly responsible for public liability insurance during construction, after which Council maintains the public liability insurance for the Oval Reserve. 2 questions, numbers 5 and 6, relate to seeking an understanding of the upfront and ongoing costs of the lights if they are to be installed. Page 9 of the agenda addresses financial implications and outlines that the project budget required is $480,000. Construction costs are only part of this budget, which also needs to accommodate design work, planning, removal of the existing lights, upgrade of the supply if needed, which we believe it will be, and also a contingency allowance. When all of those things are considered, that's how we arrive at a budget of $480,000. The operating costs are likely to be similar to the current costs because while there are more poles, there'll be twice as many poles. The new poles, the new globes themselves are much more efficient than the old globes, which we are struggling to maintain as well. So the 4 poles and lights will translate to an annual increase in annual depreciation, and therefore that increase is expected to be in the order of $7,000 because we already have 2 poles there. 4 questions, I've got 2 questions, numbers 8 and 11. 4 questions, 8, 9, 10 and 11, relate to the potential use of the Oval by air ambulance helicopters. The Oval hasn't been used by ambulance for a number of years now, and we haven't been asked to make it available for emergencies, and so we haven't undertaken any specific consultation with emergency services or ambulance helicopter at this time. 2 questions, numbers 12 and 13, relate to concerns about lights having an impact on flying foxes, birds, insects, etc. A specific assessment has not been undertaken, and it's not usual to do so for these types of projects. Lake Oval is an urban environment where streetlights are on from dusk to dawn, and lighting at the recreation reserve is generally turned off well before 10 p.m, usually even earlier, and the lighting is very much directed down to the playing surface. 3 questions, numbers 14 to 16, relate to the potential for light spill to impact on neighbouring residents. We know this is a matter that's been raised and is of concern to some. Council has sourced a preliminary lighting design that is suitable for the concept stage that the project is currently at. That preliminary design has informed the budget so that we've understood what financial commitment might be needed and what grant application might need to ask for. The preliminary lighting design also has demonstrated that meeting the Australian standards shouldn't be an issue in relation to both the lighting needed for the playing surface as well as not exceeding those standards that are set for light spill away from the reserve. Should Council determine to proceed with this project, this lighting design will be refined, reviewed to make sure that it's finalised and ready to be put to tender for construction. And the final lighting design, which will also confirm that modelling for light spill, we're very happy to share that with the neighbouring residents. There's no concern about that, and then you'll have that information. 3 questions, numbers 17 to 19, ask about the implications of increased usage of Lake Oval, including the effects on car parking, noise, rubbish, toilets, and costs that result from the increased usage. In general, sharing of facilities by different sporting clubs is much encouraged. It helps to get the greatest return on investment in infrastructure, helps to share operating costs and support applications to other funding parties to help secure their investment. Single-user facilities are harder to sustain in general, and most often the burden falls to a small number of users. Growth in community participation can also be quite limited, and it's harder to attract funding. If Lake Oval is able to support additional types or frequency of users, there may be more times where people may use the car parking, toilets, etc. And in relation to the costs that arise from that, they're generally shared between Council and the community as follows. Council takes the primary responsibility for assets that are on the reserves that are our assets, in effect. And the users generally contribute to the general operating costs, so all of those things about cleaning toilets, toilet paper, whatever the consumables are. That's very much what we ask the clubs and users to contribute to more directly, and they also have an important role in helping to raise funds for upgrades and often contribute even to renewal projects when needed. Question 20 asks about whether planning restrictions, including any heritage overlay, affect the proposed lighting project. These issues are covered in the officer's report on page 8 of the agenda, but that's come out since the questions were lodged. That outlines that the Lake Oval project doesn't require a planning permit and there are no heritage overlays that directly impact the project. The heritage advisor has been consulted and they've not identified any concerns arising from the project. Question 21 asks if the lighting pole foundations change the ground height in a way that will impact drainage. Most foundations are below or at ground level, and any changes to the surface are relatively minor. Drainage is considered during both the design and construction stages to ensure that water won't pool or get diverted to where it shouldn't be. And Mayor and Ms Finlayson, I hope that that has helped to give you an understanding about matters arising from your 25 questions.
Thank you, CEO. We'll now move on to some questions in writing. The first one I've got is from Mr James Judd. Why do we not bring back light wardens to check on siting of light towers to make certain they only throw light in specific areas and are not visible from other areas? These wardens served a very important role in not allowing light to escape so it could be detected from other sites during the national emergency World War II. Plus, no one was exempt from these rules, and even all street lights had to be shaded so the light was direct and could only light up the road under a light and could not send light to other areas. No buildings could have outside lights if not very carefully shaded, so no light could be seen from outside a property boundary. Plus, all building windows had to have blackout curtains to make sure no light could escape from a building and could be seen from any place outside a building. The wardens were active throughout the nation and very heavy penalties were handed down if any personal business broke them. Can I have a response from the Chief Executive Officer?
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Mr Judd. There's no identified need for engaging light wardens, and in regard to sports ground lighting, modern lighting is designed by technical professionals to ensure the lights are focused on the playing area and that spill outside that playing area is minimised and complies with Australian standards.
Thank you. Another question in writing from David Coventry. In the G21 Regional Football Strategy 2023 to 2033, published in August 23, BIAC Recreation Reserve is recognised as the only football, soccer in brackets, facility within the Colac Otway Shire. Yet the reserve is not managed by the council. Every measured category in the report concerning the pitch quality, the facilities rank as low. The report acknowledges major shortfalls in the infrastructure have been identified and recommends immediate planning and investment are required. Surely the football feasibility study and the Locoval lighting upgrade are aligned with the need to do more to support a club that has battled to find a home base for more than 20 years within the Shire. If the council cannot support the submission of a grant application, what plans do they have to support football, soccer in brackets, with Colac Otway Shire and with a burgeoning junior interest in the game? If not now, when? Chief Executive Officer.
So through the Mayor. So thanks, Mr Coventry. Council has resolved to submit an application to the Local Sports Infrastructure Fund for a soccer feasibility study, and this will be valuable regardless of any decision on the lighting at Lake Oval, I believe, because it's really timely that we get a clear direction on being able to accommodate soccer. If the lighting doesn't progress at this time at Lake Oval, then officers will continue to work with the club about a shorter-term solution.
Thank you. That concludes the written questions. I just want to let everybody know we're really pushed for time tonight. We've had to adjourn another meeting to come to this meeting, so we might have to restrict the questions from the gallery, but I think we only had one person wanting to ask a question. Thank you. Yeah, one. Thank
Do you require me to say my name?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm Bridget Finlayson. My question is, why was the information regarding the proposed new lighting at the Lake Oval that appeared now in the agenda for today's special council meeting not included in the letter dated the 14th of November 2023 sent to residents by the Colac Otway Shire Recreation and Open Space Coordinator? Prior to the conclusion of the public consultation process, this information, including costs and location of these new lights, should have been included in the letter sent to residents to properly inform their views. The fact that this information was known by the Recreation and Open Space Coordinator before the conclusion of the public consultation process and not included in the residents' letter might give the appearance of being in breach of Colac Otway Shire's public transparency policy, which gives effect to the public transparency principles adopted under Section 57 of the 2020 Local Government Act, effective from the 27th of April 2022. Thank you.
Your question?
The question
Why?
is
why.
why?
Why? Why it wasn't included?
Why was the information regarding the proposed new lighting at the Lake Oval
Included, okay.
not included
In the letter.
in the letter that we received?
CEO, would you like to?
Yeah, so thanks, Ms Finlayson. So I'm not in a position to do a comparison exactly of the information that may be different between those two things. But what I would say is that as has been explained in the previous council report and this one, we actually have needed to do two things in parallel. We've needed to try and progress our understanding of what this project might look like in terms of budget and scope, etc. In parallel, as in refining that, we had an understanding, of course, but we needed to refine that to get ready for a funding application should council decide this is the right time to do that, in parallel to a consultation process that is actually a specific requirement for that application. So we have to prepare two things for the grant application, and unfortunately because of the very short time frames with the grants closing next Wednesday, we've actually had to do those in parallel. And we understand that is not the preferred way to do that, but it was the only way we could create the opportunity for council to consider whether to proceed with an application or not. And so information will have been emerging to officers that now is coming through the public reports that just may not have been actually available at the time that we were writing to residents. Okay.
Thank you, CEO. That concludes question time. We don't have any petitions or joint letters. I'll now move on. Is there any declarations of interest? Sharon.
Through you, Mayor, I'd just like to declare a general conflict of interest for item 7.1, as my family are members of the Colac Cricket Club, who are a tenant club at the Lake Oval.
Thank you, Mr. Sheeran. I now move on to the confirmation of minutes. I propose that we move to confirm the minutes of the council meeting held on the 22nd of November 2023. Do I have a mover? Councillor Finnegan. Seconder, Councillor Hanson. Is to be opposed? No minutes?
Point of order, where's this on the agenda?
I'm sorry,
not on
it's an
the-
error. It's an error in the running sheet we've provided to the Mayor, and I apologise to the Mayor for that.
Okay, thank you.
They'll 22nd of November will be confirmed at the next scheduled meeting.
Okay, so we don't have to do that.
It's our fault.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll now move on to item 7.1, local Sports Infrastructure Fund Lake Oval Lighting Upgrade Proposal. The purpose of this report is to enable council to provide direction regarding a potential application to the Local Sports Infrastructure Fund, LSIF, for the Lake Oval Lighting Project. Do councillors have any questions of officers? Councillor Potter.
Thanks, Mayor. My question is around the issue of drainage based on a submitter's correspondence, and that is with the potential increased use of the Lake Oval, especially over winter, should the lights be secured. Will it stand up to the extra use? Is there a drainage issue at the Lake Oval that precludes more use of the oval over the winter?
So through the Chair, I'll take the questions this evening due to Mr Surin's conflict. So we understand that the drainage at the Oval isn't ideal and that at times there have been some challenges. It would definitely be something that would need to be monitored. I don't think that it stops us providing the umpires that are already training there with the opportunity to have improved lighting regardless, but we would have to assess whether it's reasonable to add extra use.
Councillor Finnegan.
Thank you. Should council make the decision this evening not to proceed with the application, are we still able to repurpose the work that's been done as the preliminary work that's already been done in relation to future projects and the like? Will it provide use for future projects?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Councillor Finnegan, through the chair. So the work that's been done just to enable council to consider whether to go or no go at this time certainly wouldn't be lost if council said we're willing to consider that for a future funding opportunity at a future time, okay? It also gives us opportunity to spend more time with the community and explain what we now know that we didn't know a month ago. So it wouldn't be lost.
Thank you, CEO. Councillor Hart?
When you're ready, Mayor, I'm happy to move a resolution.
I'll move a motion. Any other questions before Councillor Hart wants to move a motion? Thank you, Councillor Arnott.
Thank you, Mayor White. Just in respect to the driver of this, my understanding is the Umpires Association looking to be able to train at night, and that's where they currently train this oval. Is this facility their preferred training ground, or do they have somewhere else that, if it were available, they would prefer to be at?
So thank you, Councillor Arnott, through the chair. I don't want to state a preference on behalf of the umpires. It's not my role to speak on their behalf, but my understanding is that what they are indicating to officers is that they are struggling to have the type of training at Lake Oval that they think that they should have safely, etc., where the largest part of the, all of the oval is well lit, okay? So their current conditions at Lake Oval aren't adequately supporting them. They would be happy, I think, to stay there and continue, certainly for a while, if the lighting was improved, and if that's not possible, they would like our support to look at an alternative site. There have been other sites indicated, but I don't think that the umpires are fixed on a specific outcome other than a safe place to train.
Thank you, CEO. Councillor Finnegan?
I've had some conversations with the folks from the Umpires Association. They have, and this is a preamble to my question, they have stated that their preference is to relocate to Central Reserve, but they are supporting the idea of lighting out Lake Colac on the basis they've been told no previously. Now, noting that we have the fair access policy in the works and the like, which would enable, give preference, or at least the opportunity for female sports people and umpires to utilise the best facilities at the best times, would that enable the Umpires Association to relocate to Central Reserve and any facilities there that may be currently utilised by another group that have a monopoly on them?
Councillor Finnegan, my response would be that that may be an opportunity, but again, it just brings the challenge of the balancing all of the many competing interests with our facilities and our users, etc. And so the officers have worked hard always to try and work out what can move where, who can use what, and what are the different arrangements. And that will change as different infrastructure comes, okay? So can they use the Central Reserve, not without having to then balance other things and make other changes? And that's, if there was a simple solution, we would have already probably had that. So the fair access policy gives us another opportunity to generate discussions about who goes where and when. That's true. But there's no perfect or only answer.
Thank you, CEO. Any further questions? Councillor Costin.
Thank you, Mayor. If we choose to proceed with this application and we're successful, what will be the impact, our organisational impact on our finances and staffing? Do we have sufficient capacity to implement the project? Does it mean other projects will be delayed or unfunded?
CEO.
Thanks for the question, Councillor Costin. So the funding contribution, if Council resolves to endorse the project and proceed with an application, it will require a contribution of $230,000 from Council. That would be funded predominantly through the Open Space Reserve, which has where contributions through developments have been accrued specifically for the purpose of being invested in recreation open space. So that would not require a reallocation from any other existing project. In terms of resources, our project management is one of the recognised costs in the budget, and so we can therefore scale our project management resources, okay, as the program of works changes in scale, and so it can be accommodated without taking project managers from other projects.
Thanks, CEO. Any other questions? Councillor Hart, I think you've got a motion you'd like to move.
Yes, thanks, Mayor, and there's really only one of two, so it's, if you go to page 5 of the agenda, it has point 1 as written, and if you go to page 6 of the agenda, but point 2, what I'm moving, reads, determines not to lodge an application. So the only difference to point 2 as worded on page 6, instead of the word whether, it has the word not.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Finnegan, is it to be opposed?
I'll just oppose it for the sake of argument, I think, Mayor. I may well support it, but I have a few things to say.
Thanks, Councillor Potter. Councillor Hart?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'd like to start by thanking the community for their interest in this particular matter and for the clear points of view expressed by a number of people, and also for the people who have attended this meeting today. In preparing for this meeting, I did make some inquiries on the exhibition, what was exhibited when these various plans that were referred to were exhibited and adopted back in May 2023. And the precise details of the location of the lights and how tall the lights would be was not part of that. Those plans were a part of wider plans to do with recreation reserves, and so some of the detail of where these lights will be and how high they will be and what have you hasn't been exhibited in the past. I think the risk with council with these sorts of funding is when you're applying for funding for projects, you need to go to government and to these authorities with a united voice. The risk here, if we were to proceed with this lighting project at this time, when there is such division, in part caused by a lack of clarity of some of the detail, in my view, if we go with that sort of thing, it would be quite understandable if some of the people who have concerns would raise that with the funding bodies and with the MPs of the government that are involved. And what you don't want to do is get to the stage where funding bodies say, oh gee, you don't want to fund this at Colac Otway Shire, they're so divided they don't know what they want. And there's a real risk that if we proceed with this, that the different points of view on the lighting project contaminates the view of the other two projects which aren't well supported. And once you get that happening, then we could decide today to go ahead with this. People could lobby the MPs and say, oh no, we didn't agree with this, while others do support it. If you get discredited in that way, then it's very easy for the people who make these decisions to say, no, we'll go and fund some projects that are well supported. I think there's some work that needs to be done on this particular project. I think if we push ahead with no appreciation of what such an approach risks doing to future funding opportunities, we probably won't get funding for it anyway. So we need to work together with the community, and with the best of intentions, I have to say, I think council's processes, and I acknowledge they're under deadlines, so it's been a very difficult situation, but I think with the best of intentions and the council's processes, with some of the information not being readily available earlier on, has contributed to the division that has occurred. And I think we need to work together with the community to try to work together with things. And I made a similar comment in the planning meeting that some of our processes create division, when if you can work together with different sides, you can often come to a more amicable conclusion. Well, that hasn't happened in time for the lighting project, so the best thing we can do to support the other two projects is to not proceed to have the lighting project in the mix with this divided community view.
Thank you, Councillor Hart. Councillor Finnegan.
Given the time considerations, I'll be quite quick, but I support seconded Councillor Hart's motion. I feel that, as Councillor Hart has pointed out, it's almost as if things have come about a bit too quickly, considering the time considerations and the deadlines for getting the application in for this round of grant funding. And I feel that's probably, whilst the information we've garnered and everything is important, it's probably not the right time for it now. And that's not to say that we don't deserve good class sporting facilities that are accessible and the like. And certainly, given that the umpires have stated a preference to move to Central Reserve, and given that we are applying for funding for a regional, the football funding for the round ball game, I feel that it makes sense for us to perhaps not muddy the waters of the other two applications by proceeding with this one. And that's not to say that we can't support support those in the round ball game in future, and certainly seek to have them homed.
Thanks, Councillor Finnegan. Councillor Potter.
Thanks, Mayor. And look, I may end up supporting this motion, but to me it doesn't go far enough, as I would like to see in writing in a motion a clear commitment to the community, especially some of whom are here today, that Council will continue to investigate and look at the technicalities around increasing use of the Lake Oval, and in particular support for a proper football facility for the Colac Otway Rovers. Look, we've all spoken to some of the residents who are objecting. We've spoken to representatives from the umpires and the cricket club, and we've received a powerful argument from the Colac Otway Rovers, and I have been leaning towards supporting the supports. However, I do think there's more work that needs to be done, and I think if we're going to spend 240-odd thousand, I think making that commitment, it needs to be on the basis of some thorough technical work and a real look at the use and location of some of these groups and how to best move forward. There was 4 or 5 years ago, we were first talking about a soccer facility at the old high school site. I think some money we committed recently will help us flesh that out, whether that's the right spot or not. But I think this application is perhaps not quite ready, and we need to do some of those planning and strategies for the future needs. But I just want to reiterate my support for the Colac Otway Rovers' future, because they've been underdone in this community for a while, and now they're on the cusp of moving forward. But let's do that sensibly and in a planned and strategic way.
Thanks, Councillor Potter. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Arnott.
I'll not repeat what everyone else has said. Support Councillor Potter's comments there very much. I thank Councillor Hart for the motion. I think it's appropriate to proceed, so I'll be supporting it in concept. And I do support that idea that we take a total look at our venues in context of the whole Shire, our sporting facilities, including the Lake Colac. But I also acknowledge we must get best use out of our facilities, and especially the Lake Oval, taking into account that we want to make best use of its capital and the investment that's already there, recognising its unique position within the residential area of the town. Thank you.
Councillor Arnott. Anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Hanson.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that the lights at Lake Oval were included in the reserves master planning work, which was a really high-level document that sort of earmarked upgrades to a number of council facilities that I think, the project works totalled something like $35 or $40 million worth of works. There are a lot of works, included in those projects, and I was supportive of the reserve master planning, but at the time I did raise concerns around the lights at the Lake Oval. I supported the master plan, but I didn't actually support 100% of the projects in the master plan. And I did raise concerns around the lights at the Lake Oval. And I'm not surprised at the feedback that we've got around it and some of the objections and submissions that we've received, because I think a lot of the residents or a lot of people, because it was such a large document, the reserves master planning, a lot of people wouldn't have looked into the minutiae or the detail. A lot of the work was done with the sporting groups, not really with residents that might be affected by things. And the lights at the Lake Oval, I think because of the work that's had to be done to put in a grant for this application, where we've been required to consult with the community, has alarmed some of the residents, and why we have received the feedback that we have had, and people have been quite confused by the process. And so I think probably, whether it's our fault or not, or nobody's really fault, we were under time constraints with this streaming fund. And it's created, I think, a situation where I do agree with Councillor Hart that it's better off going into these funding applications if you can have a united voice, because we have had a lot of success with the local sports infrastructure fund in the past, and it has led to upgrades to a number of our sporting facilities.
Thanks, Councillor Hanson. Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Hart, do you want a final statement? Okay, we have a motion before us, so I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you, councillors. Thanks everybody for attending, and I'll now close the meeting. At